2022. It's on my third day in Split, and I'm at the cathedral, of which there were four, or temple, of which there were four. This is the Temple of Jupiter, I believe. And it's my second morning of a detailed early morning run-through before there are any tourists here. One of 12 sphinxes that Diocletian imported from Egypt. Just some detail that escaped me on my first visit. I'll go down here into this lower area that I saw before. We have no idea what's down here. Certainly it was intended to be an important access point. And here are many vaulted side rooms. This may be a long primary corridor. And then these side rooms leading to what now are other levels, but may originally have been one continuous level of inner buildings and rooms. These stones having been worn well. It's what it had had as a history in by the 3rd or 4th century. No surprise that this would reflect the large empire that it had been. And looking at this side portal, it appears that it was rebuilt and built into the larger archway, which suggests that colonnades like I'm in now went off to the side in full size. Much of this archway may or may not be original. It may just be primarily support, as are those huge pipes and that beam there supporting the area I walked on a few minutes ago. This is a diagram of the basement halls of Diocletian's palace. Where we are here, I don't know for sure. And the area we looked at probably represents that cross-hatched room in the lower left-hand side, and that long colonnade or rectangle may be sitting directly underneath where the wall was, looking in front of Diocletian's residential area, looking out to the sea. These are shops which I'm sure will be lit up later in the day, although it's a Monday. Apparently later in the day I can get access to this. I don't think I'll bother for 35 kuna. I suspect it just continues on and on. Almost completely fronted by newer buildings that are shops is the facade of Diocletian's palace facing the sea, the area that we were at a few minutes ago. So we'll take a closer look at what we can discover about how it might have looked. What we can see here is that there were large archways that may have been faux archways. In other words, there was no real access there. I don't know. And then faux columns, there's a certain name for that, faux columns, if you will, and lintels above them. But when done initially, it must have been quite beautiful. Now, most of the windows above are square, relatively new design, but that may be a last remnant of an original design. And way down to the right here, we'll take a look at a bigger arched. It would have been just prior to the tower, which is on the right. You can imagine that the stone I'm walking on here, which borders the modern sidewalk, has all been cannibalized from the palace inside at some point in time. And some of this detail looks like it would have been a modern not even a reconstruction, a modern application of someone's idea of greater elegance. Here are a reconstruction of that section we saw to the right a few moments ago. This is strudel I thought I would try because I was hungry. The bakeries smell good, but frankly I haven't found much in the Balkans in the way of bakery goods that I like, except for very rarely I found some bread and the mountains in Montenegro and a couple of other places, but normally it's just too heavy or it's completely bland, like something I bought yesterday and took a couple bites and a little bit later threw it in the... After chatting with the couple who were en route to the train that I met on the boat going over to Hvar yesterday, I walked to the left as you're facing the palace with the sea behind me, and entered into this square which I'd been in before, and this statue just to orientate myself. Here are a coat of arms from what might have been a palace in the past, or it may just be a coat of arms plaque was stripped off and put on this building when it was constructed. And same with this nearby entry. This certainly looks newly made, but over time it'll gain some historical patina. Here everything built around encasing and in fact some part of the old palace structure. Imagine the history of this arcade, which looks like it's been worked by having this building to the left added, but notice the sculpturing here. The old door. What's behind that door? Even more of the original structure and probably a very old building built into it long before these other buildings, and the narrow passageway to get here that I just walked through. See, I'm looking through one of the portals above the shops on the front facing the sea. But how people get to these restaurants when me wandering here just do it in random through narrow little passages which have no particular allure to most people. Just an interesting view of that old building with the very old structure on top. Just another dead end where people live. Here's this little card I noticed on a windowsill. Probably pass on that. Now, if the entryway defines the status of a family, this palace would be an important person. But this is a very elaborate and well-worn, well-weathered doorway, so I'm suspecting it's rather odd. It's a late Gothic palace, wealthy merchant, later ennobled. Giovanni Battista de Gubbio, so it's not a Baptist, it's baptismal, it's Battista's house. Second half of the 15th century. Remodeled in the Baroque. So there's parts of the palace that are actually Romanesque. A fresco showing a peacock. This fresco showing the peacock, which we probably can't see from here, and we'll see in a moment. This is the coat of arms, and it was done by one of the artists under George of Dalmatia, which sounds like a cartoon character, but he was apparently in his time the most important sculptor of stone. If this was original or not to the home, I don't know, including that lovely columns. We won't be able to see the peacock unless it's inside that travois. This is all a reconstruction. Doubtful that any of this is original to the palace, but never can tell. That may be. Makes us wonder if those archways were original archways or for mere decoration, and whether that post is part of it. The windows, of course, being added. There's the wellhead. Those would have been pretty large doors also. Well, here as we continue on, was this here when the Battistas were? There, another coat of arms. The coat of arms of the Dragišić family, and one of the Gothic windows of the one-time courtyard elevation of the palace. Now it certainly doesn't appear to be too much.